My name is Calvin Jackson. Over the past couple of years, I was a homeless veteran. I found housing in our community because a lady, she needed a maintenance worker because her husband died in her building. So I became the maintenance worker. I became involved in this the foreclosure procedures with the Chicago Anti-Housing Coalition, because after my landlord, after her husband passed away, she's an elderly person, she fell behind in her payment to the banks and everything, and she didn't really understand a lot of things that were happening, and her property became foreclosed. After the property became foreclosed, she finally told me what was going on, that the property was foreclosed, that we all might have to move, and even she would have to move out of the building. I contacted the Chicago Anti-Homeless Coalition and informed them what was going on, and they showed me some steps to go through of how to get through the foreclosure procedure. What we found out was that there's a climate of corruption in Chicago. We live in the Englewood area in Chicago, and the Englewood area is one of the areas that is targeted for regentrification in the Chicago area. Most of the buildings that are and houses that are in that area have big red X's on them. Nice brick buildings, nice 4- and 5-bedroom homes have X's on them that the city has determined that these buildings are worthless. You know. So what we did was we started going to court, and what I did was I found out the information from the Chicago Anti-Homeless Coalition on what to write, how to write a motion, and how to look up court records and so on. What happened was when we finally went to court with the banks had sold the property without telling us, without going through certain rights and procedures. So as I found out more to do, I found out that we could stop this sale of the property and also answer the complaint against us. Part of my answer in the complaint against us, what I researched was that there is a cease and desist order on the banks from doing foreclosure from the United States government. So I wrote this up and put this in the answer in the complaint, and also in a motion for the bank to stop. The judge, she pretended like she didn't know what we were talking about, and so did the attorney for the bank, Citibank. They talked about amongst each other, and then the bank fell back and stopped the foreclosure. And then now here comes the merry-go-round. So as they were foreclosing on the property for less than the price of a car, after being there 26 years, her and her husband. So what we tried to do is get a remodification. Getting the paperwork together was a task, but right now I was unemployed, so there was no problem getting this stuff together. Sending this paperwork into the bank over and over again, as they repeatedly said that they didn't get this paper, that paper. And they tried to foreclose again, saying that we wasn't working with the bank. I did some more research with the Chicago Anti-Homeless Coalition and pushed everything through.
Is it the Chicago Anti-Homeless Coalition or the Chicago Anti-Eviction?
The Chicago Anti-Eviction. I call it homeless because they stopped me from being homeless. So Anti-Eviction Coalition. So what happened was the banks fell back again and dropped the foreclosure. Right now, I found through my research and going to the city, finding out information, there have been times when I got there, they couldn't even find that file, which is strange. How can you sell a house, a building, and don't have a file there? I found that the Illinois Bar Association, the Cook County Courts, the city, through the Neighborhood Housing Services, and the banks are out to move African American people in our communities, especially in Englewood, out. They are steering us in the wrong direction through that Neighborhood Housing Services. If they would come there in the building and they ask you if you want windows in the building, and if you say yes, they'll come in and they inspect the property and they will fine you. And then through the fines, they will put a lien on the property and take the building. I've seen one elderly person on the block, lose her home because the city came and helped her put windows up. And through neighborhood housing services, I had another elderly man on the block used them, and they started sending lawyers over there to help him with his foreclosure, and he used his savings to hire these lawyers who never showed up. And he finally went to Mississippi, and so despondent died. You know, these banks are in control of our government here in Illinois. We are not represented by our representatives. We have had a governor go to jail. We have had a state representative go to jail, a alderman go to jail, and a congressman in the poor communities. So this doesn't mean that this means that we're not getting representation. The banks have a fast track on foreclosures, and the trick they're doing now is selling the property. You know, people, when they find out they foreclosed on, they kind of panic. When they find out that the property's been foreclosed on and sold, they just go crazy. And how was this property in Inglewood, in Chicago, on the south side, sold to someone in Alabama? This is unbelievable. I think that the U.S. Justice Department should come into the city of Chicago and should help people in the foreclosed bank, in the foreclosed courts. Because there is a consent decree, and that courtroom is filled every day with banks doing foreclosures. We need help, and if the Justice Department is not stepping in, we might need help from the world. Seeing that people in Chicago are being displaced, just like if someone came over and took over Kosovo, they moved all the Muslims out. Now here in Chicago, on the south side, they're moving all the blacks out. And don't be a black male, they're either going to move you out or they're going to shoot you. Because our police department is out of control, and it's all about buying houses, buying property. When you wake up in the morning, you see nothing but white panel trucks moving into buildings, buying up this property and fixing it. And they put all kind of gates and stuff around it, and gates on the doors and on the windows, steel windows on there, and they're just sitting back waiting until they move the rest of us out. It's just, I believe that they should make the rules that you must live in the community if you buy an abandoned property, or if you're renting in the community, try to help us buy some of this property that the city has put X's on. So if someone mysteriously set the property on fire, like Detroit, mysteriously set fires on these properties, they're not going to save them. That way we got all these vacant lots. All these vacant lots, and that, what can we do? Just move out. If you sit back and watch what has happened with history, this is a conceived plan. Mm-hmm. We need help. We need maybe the U.S. Justice Department, which is not reacting because of their consent decree, telling these banks to stop with the foreclosures. If it takes the UN to go in and go into that Cook County Court building down there, with the blue helmets on and the guns, and arrest them judges and those lawyers. They are violating our human rights. What are we going to do this winter? Are we supposed to hide and hope and just wait for when it gets warm for them to come with the sheriff and throw us out into the streets? And then once we're in the streets, what are they going to do then? They're going to try to give us a quick Section 8 and move us out to far suburbs, or like a lot of people in Chicago are getting Section 8s and moving them to places like Iowa. I got a generation of people that grew up here in Chicago. Now they all being moved to Iowa. What's going on here? I think that I know that something needs to change.